Well, it took close to 4 decades, but folks, the USFL is back, and it came back in grand fashion last night as the Birmingham Stallions beat the New Jersey Generals 28-24 in the waning seconds. Right from the start, there was a lot of excitement. I thought the broadcast was really, really well done for the most part. The only thing I didn't like, there was no reference to the old USFL, and that was clear that Fox was going to do that. Kurt Menefee talking about the first touchdown ever in the USFL. Come on, Kurt. We know that's not true. Some journalistic inaccuracies there. I know Fox is trying to protect themselves legally, but let's be honest. Everybody knows the USFL has been around before. It's not the first kick at the can for the league, and there was no reference at all throughout the broadcast of the old history of the league. As far as the game itself, I thought it was played reasonably well. Coached reasonably well. Very few penalties and a lot of big plays, and to get things started right off the top, the Generals hit on a big play from Luis Perez to Randy Satterfield down the sideline for a 49-yard strike.
First play, a pass through the air. Perez, all kinds of time. Down the sideline, he's got a man open, but under throw, he still got it. Ryan Satterfield goes up and gets it. How's that to start the ball game?
Yeah, so great way to start the ball game there. Randy Satterfield with a big catch. I had a chance to interview him a few weeks ago. Seemed like a really nice kid, and was excited about playing in the USFL. And then, I mean, who would have thunk it? On the first drive, the team would score on the first drive. Things look good for the Generals as Perez hit Satterfield once again for the touchdown. He took a hard hit at the end, but he hauled it in, and he was really the star of the game offensively for the Generals.
It's man-to-man, I think.
Man-to-man.
That's perfect.
Both times.
Play fake. Perez in the end zone, open, and touchdown. Ryan Satterfield gets the first touchdown in the history of the USFL.
Come on, Kurt. We know that's not accurate. It's not the first touchdown in the history of the USFL. Please. Come on. We're not stupid here. But anyway, very exciting. And then Birmingham comes right back. Alex McGough hits Osiris Mitchell for a touchdown to tie the game. And you had 2 scores in the first period there. So much for the under. Everybody was saying, bet the under, bet the under, bet the under. Not was the case as it looked early on for this game.
Personal foul, and that was a quick one, clearly, as McGough was giving himself up. He got hit.
He holds on to it, going deep down the sideline, hand checking, and one-handed catch for the touchdown, Osiris Mitchell. What an answer.
Osiris Mitchell with the one-hand grab there to tie things up as the Stallions and Generals both looked good early on, but as the game went on, you could see that McGough was starting to struggle, and the Generals were starting to dominate. Some big plays in the game as well. General safety Shalom Lulani took a big hit and was very impressive for the Generals' defense.
Alex McGough hands it off to C.J. Marabone. Big hit. Laser mouth Shalom Lulani. 4 yards on the pickup and 1 giant tackle.
I mean, that was like, I'm from Denver. That reminded me of Steve Atwater hitting Christian Okoye. Like, comes up and it's just like, boom. Woo-hoo!
So Lulani with the big hit. Yeah, exactly. Steve Atwater, maybe a Troy Polamalu-like. So some gems on defense as well for the Generals early on in this game. So they got it going on the offense. They got it going on the defense. And it looked like they were going to pretty much dominate it as the things looked good for the Generals as they were looked to take control as they scored another touchdown in the second quarter. Perez for a second strike of the game.
Perez forced out of the pocket towards the end zone. Yes! Touchdown, Bowman!
So the Generals go up 14-7. Some good defense by the Stallions because it looked like the Generals were starting to have their way with the Stallions. And Scooby Wright comes up with the big play in the game for the Stallions defense.
Perez steps up from behind, ball knocked out. And you said Birmingham's defense needed to make a big play. They do it. Nathan Hawley recovers the fumble. Scooby Wright knocked it out.
So the Stallions survived that. The Generals were inside the 30-yard line. Looked like they were going for some more points, but they couldn't get it done. So the Stallions remain alive, and they're able to tie it up as well. As they drove downfield, as that play helped propel them.
Get space towards the middle of the field.
28 yards on the pickup. Marable fighting. Touchdown, Birmingham.
So C.J. Marable ties it up in the third quarter as the Generals and Stallions were even at 14, and it was made a game. It looked like the Generals were starting to dominate, like we said earlier, but the Stallions basically stayed in the game, and then all of a sudden it looked like in the fourth quarter that the Generals were going to take control. Generals had a couple of missed field goals in the game, which wound up hurting them, but DeAndre Johnson really showed off his athleticism. He was on the move for the whole second half of the game.
Here's Johnson on a running play. Gets around the end, gets a block, and dives for the touchdown. And the Generals go back on top.
So DeAndre Johnson caps off that 65-yard drive. A great night for him, 98 yards on the evening. The Generals racked up 222 yards on the ground on 44 rushes. They were really getting it done. And it looked like the Stallions were getting demoralized, but they didn't have any quitting in the Stallions. They drove downfield on their own. They had Jamar Smith, and he came in for McGough and really inspired the Stallions. A little rough initially, but he got the job done when it counted.
C.J. Marable empties the backfield. Jamar Smith fires down and right down the middle of the field. Kerry Angeline takes it all the way in. Touchdown, Stallions.
So the Stallions tied the game at 21 with under 6 minutes to play. Then the Generals basically did the same thing. They basically drove the ball downfield, running the ball the whole time, and got the go-ahead field goal 24-21 with less than 2 minutes to play. But remember, in this USFL, this version of the USFL, the clock stops after every first down, so plenty of time on the clock. The Generals up 24-21, but that was too much time for Jamar Smith and the Birmingham Stallions as they win the game in the game's final seconds.
Smith rolling right. Gets it back, dives, and scores.
So Jamar Smith gets the winning score as the Stallions win it 28-24. If you're a Generals fan, you got to be kicking yourself. Mike Riley, I'm sure, has to be kicking himself. Kind of feel like the Stallions stole this one. The Generals seem to dominate on the ground as well with 222 yards, as we mentioned before. But exciting game, well played. Full slate of games coming up Sunday as well for the USFL. So sit back, kick back, and enjoy the return of the USFL. I'm Mike Damergis for the USFL podcast.